Hello everyone. Hamidi A Razak is the Malaysian team leader in the International Economics Olympiad since 2018. He received his bachelor's degree in Actuarial Science from UKM under the Shell Malaysia Scholarship and went on to obtain an MBA from UM. He has wide experience in economics, working for IBM, Bank Rakyat Malaysia, Maybank, Bank Negara and Bursa Malaysia. Currently, he is working as the head of credit risk management at Bank Muamalat. Hello, Hamidi. Thank you for joining us here in AMISO.
Hello, hi. Thank you for the invitation for this interview. Really honored to join you guys tonight.
The honor is ours. Okay, so Hamidi, can you tell us about the Malaysian Economics Olympiad? Like, how is it as a selection for the International Economics Olympiad?
Yeah, so basically, this started off in late 2017 or early 2018. At that point in time, I think through some connections via one of the other Olympiads, I don't recall which one. There was an idea toyed to actually having an economics Olympiad because we have maths Olympiad, like junior science and many other Olympiads. So, but we don't have the economics Olympiad. So, the International Economics Olympiad was spearheaded by the High School of Economics based in Moscow, right? So then in 2018, I think there are just like slightly more than 10 countries that participated in the International Olympiad. So the first year, the Malaysian team, we only sent two candidates. And we have a very short period of time to actually do some preparation. But anyway, we managed to go there with two candidates, and we got some leeway from not to say leeway, maybe we are allowed to participate, although generally the number of team members usually is five plus two. So we only send two plus two, I mean, two contestants and plus two team leaders. So it started off in 2018. And then 2019 was the year that we really have a little bit of momentum. So 2018 it was in Moscow, and 2019 it was held in St. Petersburg. Yeah, so then after that, COVID struck. We should be going to Kazakhstan, but due to pandemic, we have to have it online. And afterwards, and the year after that was last year, it was held online by Latvia. And this year, the host is China. And we are getting ready with both approach online and also on site. Right? So, yeah, I think that was the journey that we had. It's quite a very young Olympiad as compared to the others.
Yeah, I think it's quite awesome to hear that Economics Olympiad is a relatively new Olympiad, and how Malaysia is actually taking one of the efforts to be the pioneer, to be one of the pioneers of the Olympiad, right? Right when it started and it only have 10 countries and Malaysia is already one of it. So
Yeah.
it's very impressive that Hamidi is doing such a work for the Malaysian students out there. So Hamidi, can you tell us about economics in the Olympiads? Because like what you said, economics Olympiad is a very new Olympiad, and I got a lot of we as an organization got a lot of questions from parents and teachers talking about how economics is actually relevant in the school curriculum in Malaysia, because I know you are economists, but in the school curriculum right now, most people are in the STEM field and not a lot of students are in economics. So what would you like to say to the students and teachers out there to try out on economics Olympiad? Like how is economics relevant to the Malaysian students out there?
Yeah. So, excellent question. So, I think the Olympiad, the economics is a field where we manage resources, right? So, to be simple put. So, I mean, just the caveat is that, to be honest, I wouldn't call myself an economist, but more like a statistician or mathematician. So, I also personally started off with the Maths Olympiad actually. So I participated in the Singapore Mathematical Olympiad when I was 12 years old. It was organized by the Chinese High School of Singapore. So then from there, then basically because I work in the financial services field, so that's where there is this invitation to actually lead the Economics Olympiad. So I still rely on some of the other expertise in the field of economics when it comes to some of the trainings and for example, right? So how is it relevant is that because I think economics is a very interesting area in the sense that it teaches us on how to actually behave on daily basis. Right? Simply put, layman, straightforward, right? So it's very easy. So in terms of the level of economics, is that it has various level, right? Even if in the kindergarten, you can the buying and selling, you go to the canteen and so on, like you spend money, like that there's all the concepts such as supply and demand kind of things is all there, right? So as we go further up, then we actually get into a more serious stuff, and to some extent, I can tell you is that there's a lot of interactions between mathematics and also the economics, right? So basically it teaches us on how to actually manage our daily life, right? So it's the very important skills altogether. One thing is that I like about economics is that the knowledge that we get from the process of learning as part of preparation, it's not just about for preparation of the competition, but it can be actually applied in real life. So I mean, I went to the Maths Olympiad before. As I said, I was from that route before, and for maths, it's about for example, I'm not criticizing any areas, but I'm just giving my personal view. So for maths, sometimes it's quite difficult to understand that how it's being applied in the real life, right? So you need to have a very strong visualization on how it's actually being applied in real life. But economics is quite straightforward kind of things, right? We talk about like game theory, for example. Then immediately you can actually provide examples, the two football teams with the different strategy and so on. So it is quite easy to actually explain. So I think I don't view that. One of the things that I get is that Economics Olympiad is only for economics student. That is something that I totally disagree, kind of things, because I have students that never attended economic class formally, represented Malaysia at the International Economics Olympiad last year, and he brought back a silver medal, right? And this student, he's a very good in also maths. So when we presented with the economics problem, he actually applied the maths thought process in answering the economics question. So it's actually for everybody. As I said, that is actually how we manage our daily resources and so on. So regardless of whether you are in that field or not in the field, we naturally need to do those things. So I think that's to comfort that for some students, they feel like they are quite like not sure whether they can do this or not. For the parents, what if my kids is not does not learn anything about economics in school? So what I can say is that don't worry, regardless of which field you are in, economics will always be relevant to you, and we can easily make sense of it. So because of that, I mean, anybody can jump into that field, right? Right. Yeah.
That's a very thoughtful answer to the question, and I totally agree with you. Like economics is compared to the mathematics in Olympiad maths, which is very abstract and sometimes you cannot even visualize it. Economics is very applied and close to life right now. Like even though most students don't study economics, not most, many students don't study economics in the in their school curriculum, but they actually use economics without them realizing in their real life, like when buying stuff, when managing their limited time. Like economics is a study of how to manage limited resources of unlimited ones, right?
Yeah.
That is what I learned from researching about economics prior to this video.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a very thoughtful answer to this question, and I totally agree to you that all students should learn economics and perhaps take a try at this economics Olympiad, even if they don't study economics. Yeah. So moving on to our next question, Hamidi, can you walk us through like the Malaysian selection of the Economics Olympiad or the International Economics Olympiad? Like, how is it like? What is the format? How is the questions like? What does it ask about? And if possible, can you show us your favorite problem from the Olympiad?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So I think so basically how the International Economics Olympiad runs is that there would be each of a country has to entities from each of the country has to submit the application to become basically the organizer for that particular country. So in the case of Malaysia, it's actually Ardent Educational Sdn Bhd. So it's a non-government agency, right, to run this. But I think we get some endorsement from the KPM, right? So on to run this because we also send invitation to the school for them to participate. So how the current process is that there will be we call it as a Kijang economics competition. Okay, so basically the word Kijang was actually the idea to have this is that if you look at the website for Ardent Educational, they actually have they run a few numbers of competition, right? So you have a kangaroo maths competition, beaver computational thinking competition. They also run kancil science competition. So when it comes to economics, okay, probably so what would be the the animals that is actually suitable for this? So one of the things is that that was thought of like is whether we name it as a Kijang economics competition. But I just want to caveat that this is like really a non-government organization that is running this. So so there is this competition that is actually open to any students in Malaysia, and there is like 3 categories of the competitions. And you know, it's like a maths Olympiad where you have bongsu, muda, and sulong category kind of things, right? So the level of questions is also different. But normally the selection is coming from the higher secondary school level, right? So we select the top 30 to 50, and from there. Then we call them for a Malaysian Economics Olympiad, myeo, right? The 2019 myeo was held in University of Malaya, right? So and then starting from 2020, then we have to have it online, and 2020 since then it's online myeo. 2019 was the only year that we held it online. So in terms of the format, the first round is all the objective questions. There are about 30 questions, right? So in I think last year was the year that I think we started off having a negative score, right? So for example, so for every one question you answer it correctly, for example, you get 1 point, but if you answer it wrongly, you get negative 2. But if you don't answer, you get 0, right? I think the thought process behind that kind of approach is that we don't want students to, by luck or by chance, you know, because it's objective questions, right? Just try their luck. Don't leave the answer blank and just try it. I think we want to deter that kind of behavior. If you don't know, you just leave it blank, right? So that is actually better. there is some like trade-off is being considered there, like some sort of like trade-off game theory kind of concept that we try to apply it online, right?
Even the exam itself is
Yeah, yes. I think there's a pressure. There's a pressure on me actually, because like I crafted the questions. I was like, I mean, I have to walk the talk, lah, right? You learn about game theory kind of things, and then you try to apply to all these things. Then for the Malaysian Economics Olympiad, myao, which is the top 30 to top 50, depending on the number of participants. There's two sets of questions. One is actually the objective, and the other part is actually the subjective part, right? So what is interesting is that the subjective part, where usually there's a 4 questions that we provided, right? This can, and this is where it's quite interesting, because the question can come from any angle, right? And but as much as possible, we will try to actually come up with the questions. At least there is a one question that is actually, if you have a very strong logical thinking, you should be able to actually answer it, right? The other parts is quite something that you realize on how much you read about economics, and that's the interesting about this area is that the question can come from anything. Like for example, that the in the aspect of marketing, like for example, that what's your pricing strategies available, under this kind of condition. If you're in the airline sector, for example, what is the best pricing strategy, right? And it can come from the angle that the economics area, of course, definitely. And it also can come from the financial investment perspective, right? Okay, before I go here, because what I want to share is that what I noticed after after a few years, about 2 to 3 years, especially when it was first IEO was held in 2018 in Moscow at that time. What I noticed is that in economics may be thought differently across the world, right? So the definition of economics is may be different in from one parts to the other, right? This is unlike the other subject, like for example, maths. Maths is maths, right? It's been taught so in the other parts of the world, like for example, the economics is not just about covering the economics that we understand here normally in the school syllabus, like supply, demand, those kind of things, right? But it's also like for example, financial investment, like investment theory, for example, investment strategies, and also to some extent where they call it as like financial literacy, right? So the IEO also covered the topics on financial literacy, but in Malaysia, usually when you talk about financial literacy, it's about how do you spend your money, right? So like whether you spend on your wants or your need, the kind of things, which one you should prioritize, how should you manage your debt level, and so on. But in the context of IEO, financial literacy also covers investment aspect, like I know whether how much portfolio allocation that you should do, how much bonds, how much equity, how much is the risky asset, and so on. So there is also be defined under the financial literacy. So in terms of the coverage, is very wide, right? So that's why I think this is what I learned in crafting the question. So starting from the second, third year, the aspect or the topics that is covered in the myeo is much more diverse. There are also some question on banking part, like for example the capital requirements and so on, right? So I think that leads to another issue, right? Because it would be extremely difficult for the students to answer that those kind of area if they don't cover it, right? So if you never heard about, for example, that certain things like or you never learn about, for example, portfolio allocation, like the use of for example VAR model or regression model, forecasting model, those kind of things, which usually a 17, 18 years old student have not reached that in the formal, in their education line. So that will create some, then the question will like appear like very hard. And but I can tell you is that for those who actually make it to the IEO, make it to the pass the myeo at certain level, I would say that these students, although they are like 16, 17 years old, biologically, but I think they are how do I call it? It's not professional age. Their mental age is probably like 10 years ahead of their biological age, right? So I would be very I'm like anxious to see that who are these students gonna be sometime in the future, right? So, oh yeah, then another aspect that is actually covered in IEO is business case presentation, right? So business case presentation is where you have in a group, so usually each country, so if you have five in a group, and there will be a business case that is presented, the students need to actually present it, right? So like as if like they are a consultant, for example, or they have to actually address certain issues, right? Like for example, in 2019 in St. Petersburg, the questions was crafted by McKinsey, if I'm not mistaken, McKinsey Russia, and the topic is about the Elon Musk Hyperloop, whether it's actually suitable to be implemented in Russia, right? So the students will actually assess, like for example, okay, what this is about. Is it like geographically, is it suitable? The cost benefit, how much should be the price of the tickets? Like how much should be the frequency, this kind of thing. So that's what I like about this economics competition is that they are not just about a group of book smart students, but when you go to that competition, these are also a street smart, because in the business case competition, you need to convince people, and convince people is an art. Like it's an art. So that's what I like about this competition. It covers not just about the facts, but it's also cover about the communication and the ability to convince, right? Because managing economy is also like the ability to actually influence people to do certain things, right? To influence people to spend, influence people to save, and so on. So that's what I like about this competition. So it's a quite broad area, right? So then that leads to the two issue. One is that how do we come up with the best approach to select the best candidates, and I also have started to hear the feedback from the teachers and also the parents is that some of the parents is that what does it take for me to actually train my kid to actually get ready for this competition, right? So I think these are the two things that we don't have the answer yet, but we are crafting. We are thinking about some of the strategy. For example, what does it take for me to get my kids to be ready with this? So we are thinking about like probably at the age of 5 or 6, these are the syllabus. You learn how to buy simple items, do some simple accounting stuff, kind of things. By the age of 9, you do these kind of things. By the age of 12, and by the age of 16, 17, you probably like solving like game theory kind of questions, right? So the intention is always to try to put the candidate like at least 5 to 7 years ahead of their biological age, right? So when they are only 17, yes, but they can actually discuss about economic subject that usually taught in university, for example, right? So we try to push. So I think that's one of the strategy that we apply, right? So I will always question that what would be a third year degree in economics learned in university, and can I actually get the 17-year-old student to actually cover this kind of topics, for example. So that is how we try to push the limit of these students, right? So yeah, so that is basically the selection process. And what is the dilemma that as an organizer, as the person who craft the questions, and also how to basically select the cream of the cream. And also another thing is that you know that there's a subjective question in the myeo. Sometimes you will not be penalized if you don't get the final answer. Like for example, because what we want to look from the answer script is that your thought process, right? How do you actually derive a certain answer, right? So you might the final answer might be wrong. Let's say, for example, the price should be 100 ringgit, for example, but you got it 150 ringgit, for example, right? But the workings is correct, like then there's the clear thought process. Now, for example, based on the reverse game theory, this is the consideration, this aspect, and from here we derive this, from this we derive this, and so on, and finally we come up with the final answer. You can get the final answer wrong, but if you get all the thought process is the steps are correct, the thought process is clear, there's high chances that you'll be selected to join the team. Yeah.
That's a very insightful answer. So yeah, I think a lot of students will be very interested to join Economics Olympiad, like how you describe it as such an interesting Olympiad with all those open-ended problems. Like what you say, even if you get the final answer wrong, if your thought process and problem solving is correct, you still get the final answer. And also how rigorous this competition is. Like we get the involvement of KPM, McKinsey inside this Olympiad. And I think a lot of students will like, wow, this is really not an Olympiad to mess with. This is a very challenging Olympiad to begin with. Like how you mentioned that 17 years need to master, was it a third year undergraduate economics content?
Yeah.
But it is still accessible to like the mainstream student, right? Like, any students who are interested in economics, as long as they are ready to learn a bit about economics on their free time, they can definitely join this competition, right?
Yeah. Yes. As I said, I got one student that he was selected, and my approach is that I don't want to see from which school you're coming from. I just want to see your answer script. I also try to see your name. I just mark your answer script just because I just want to be as objective as possible. And then there was one case is that this student is selected, and then we have introductory sessions. That's when I know that this person never took any economic class. And I will ask that, how can you answer all these questions? Right? So then he says that, Hamidi, I watch YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube channels that taught me about the economic subject. So I watch all these videos and I learn myself. And this student is a Form 5 student preparing for SPM, right? And not taking economics for the SPM. So I mean, these are some of the gems lah, the permata, like the diamonds that we try to look for, right? So
I think I think he also served as an inspiration to all the other students out there who think that they might not be able to be selected. But in fact, if students put in the work to learn economics, even through YouTube, they might, at the end of the day, have the chance to represent the country to what was his country that time?
Latvia.
So
yes.
At the end of it, if you watch YouTube, you can even end up at Latvia representing your country. So yeah, I think it's a very inspirational story you have there for the student you have. Okay, Hamidi, can you show us some photos of these Malaysians in IEO?
Yeah, sure. So this is one of the photo that we took in St. Petersburg. I think during this year we sent four candidates, and I think we brought back from out of four, one gold, one silver, and one bronze, right? Yeah. So Let me just try to.
So there's six of you guys in this photo. So I can see you holding. You're the one with the tie holding the flag, and there's four candidates existing. And then what about one more person in the photo?
So another person is actually the team leader B, right? So the two team leaders. So how we divide the the division of labor, also an economics term, is that I'll be in charge of the prepping the team for the competition, and the other team leader is actually is a representative from Arden Educational Sdn Bhd, and he would be the one that actually make sure that our visa, we obtain our visa, our transportation, all these things are well taken care of, right? Well, for me, it's actually solely on the prepping for the competition itself, right? So perhaps I will share more photos with you later, maybe.
Yeah. All right, sure. Also, like the team leader B will perhaps help the participants to cover their costs through IEO. Like just for a disclaimer, IEO doesn't require the participants to pay anything, right?
No. Yeah, there's no participation fees, but each country is actually responsible for your own flight. For example, your transportation. But the moment we touch down at the country, everything was taken care for. Right. So from the transportation from the airport to the venue, accommodation and so on. Right. So that would be covered. Same goes with China. If we manage to go there physically, I hope starting this 1st April, we can travel overseas. So I hope that we can go there. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think a lot of students will be excited to hear that even if you just participate in this competition, there's that chance that if you do well, you have a free trip in that country with the accommodation, with the food, and then with the opportunity to mingle around with all those others high-performing economics students all around the world.
Yeah,
I think a lot of students.
I look forward for the physical Olympiad. Why it's not just about the traveling there and meet new people, but usually they have a side events between the competition, right? So usually there's 3 days that with the competition. 1 day for economics, 1 day for the financial literacy, and the other day is for business case competition. But normally we go there for about 7 days, because in between this, there are a lot of programs. And these are some of the things that is also beneficial for the team leaders. For example, we had a talk by Professor Eric Maskin, 2007 Nobel Prize laureate. He's our the chairman of the advisory board of the IEO. He's actually won the Nobel Prize due to arising from the reverse game theory, right? So he gave a talk. We met him in Moscow. We met him in St. Petersburg. He's a professor from Harvard, right? So and that we got all these lectures, a series of lectures, probably 3 to 4 lectures. In St. Petersburg, we also had lectures on the something like if I can put it in layman, is that the mathematics of happiness. Sorry, it's not the happiness. It's about the cheating. They study about why people cheat, how many times a day people cheat, and so on, right? So you get all this like very interesting talk. And we also get to actually visit interesting places. Like, for example, when we were in Moscow in 2018, we were given option to actually visit either the office of Yandex or the office, the Google office, right? So I actually visited Yandex. If you're not, are you familiar with Yandex? Yandex is like the Amazon of Russia, something like that. That's what they try to describe it, right? So Yandex provided a lot of services. So we got to actually visit this kind of offices, which is very interesting. in 2019, I actually visited one of the office of the Moscow Stock Exchange, Moscow Exchange in St. Petersburg, right? So they actually share with us what are some of the, it's like a Bursa equivalent in Russia, right? So that is something very interesting. It's like a once in a lifetime kind of experience, right? So yeah, that's why I look forward for the physical IEO. Yeah, and that's what the students can learn also a lot.
That's awesome. I think, yeah, I think a lot of students might not even have a chance if it's not for the Olympiad to visit like the Moscow Stock Exchange or even have the opportunity to attend a lecture by a Harvard economics professor.
Yeah. Yes.
Hmm. Hamidi, do you have more photos to show us?
Yeah, because I think I switch on my phone and I have to go and take the pictures. But then I think I can send to you later on, and maybe we can incorporate it later. Yeah.
All right, sure. We can show the pictures later. Okay, so let's move on to our next questions. How, like you have said before, like Malaysia is a new player in Olympia, in this Olympiad, and this Olympiad is a new Olympiad, and how like different countries teach teach economics differently, and like financial literacy and business case might mean different in Malaysia than compared to other countries. So how is actually Malaysians performing in IEO? Like, are we a strong player in the Olympiad?
Yes, I think we I'm quite happy to share this is that um so yeah okay in 2018 we went there with two participants and we brought back one bronze medal. And we also won the best team for business case competition, right? So uh, we beat either 11 countries, if I'm not mistaken. And there was
Just the two candidates, they beat the
exactly
other.
exactly
Just
yeah. Yeah, the two
amazing.
candidates. I think we were competing against Kazakhstan team in the final round, if I'm not mistaken. So just the two teams coming up with the business case presentation slides and so on. And That was the first year. 2019 in St. Petersburg, more countries participated. I found a mistake, it's 26 countries. So I thought that, man, the competition is going to be even more tough, right? Surprise, surprise. One gold, one silver, and one bronze. Um, and But we didn't manage to actually retain the business case championship, become a champion for the business case, but it's okay. We brought back the first gold medal for the Economics Olympiad. 2020, it was in Kazakhstan, and I think the best result was last year. We I think we brought back one gold, three silver, and one bronze. Five candidates, all five bring back some colors to the medals, right? So and I think if I'm not mistaken, we rank number 6 among the 40 over countries, if I'm not mistaken, right? So my goal is that I wanted the Malaysian team to be the top 3 in the group competition, right? So for that, I think we need to actually at least bring back some 3 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze, this kind of things, and we should also be very high score in the business competition and also the investment game, right? So I think we have done quite pretty well at the international level, and I'm quite proud of the Malaysian team. that we have so far. We keep improving year after. Even the number of countries has increasing, but I think we are improving in good pace, right? So yeah, that's the.
I think it's definitely possible that Malaysia can be the top three countries out there in the near future under leadership. Like we can see past records, like Malaysia since the beginning until now has keep on improving, like what you say, and we have like one gold medal last year and another gold medal last year. And yeah, I'm definitely confident that Malaysia might be like in the economics Olympiad might set an example for the other Olympiads that Malaysia can actually be a very, very strong player in the Olympiad.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's awesome. Do you have other things, anything else to share about the economics Olympiad? Perhaps maybe you want to talk about the second issue that you mentioned during the competition format, like how students can prepare for the national selection.
Yeah. So that's the thing. That's a tough question to ask because the breadth of the topics is very wide and to cover a lot of things. But what I can say is that at least even if you're Form 4 or Form 5, I mean, I got candidates is actually that 16 years old, right? So first is that you have to try, as I said, try to be at least 4 or 5 years ahead of your time, of your biological age. So go and read some of the microeconomics, macroeconomics books, those kind of things, and get yourself familiar with stock market. And yeah, in one of my class for the IEO preparation is that I show them the live trading of futures, right? So I say, okay, let's do the share screen. Let me share screen for examples. Okay, this is the layout of the futures platform, right? I give a strong caveat to them is that you can make tons of money and you can also lose tons of money. I'm going to teach you this knowledge, but if you want to apply it yourself, please be extra cautious, right? So then I actually taught them how to trade FCPO, futures crude palm oil, right? So I taught them how to read the chart, right? Determine when is the entry point, how do you set the stop loss, how do you set the profit point, and so on. I think I'm going to extend that to some other things, like for example, share trading. Because the thing is that I wanted the students to really feel the real life. Like for example, we learn about portfolio allocation, we learn about managing risk in investment strategy and so on. But the best knowledge is that when you really try it, I'm trying to consider that, for example, that, okay, let's look at for example, if I want to teach about investment, I want to try this new method. Like for example, okay, let's try to register for like as if that you want to trade shares, right? So open an account, CDS account, for example. Have the feel, the real life feel. You don't have to trade. You just like open up so that you can have access to the platform. You know how to enter. You know how to read the chart and so on. So we try to in the job we always say that it's on the job training, but this one is like really like some real life kind of a practical aspect of it, right? That's how I prep the students. And another thing is that for the business case competition is that it requires you to be the ability to actually present in front of the crowd, for example, so that you're not scared of those things. So usually the problem of the book smart is that they can hardly actually speak in front of the crowd, right? But for economics Olympiad, you have no choice. If you want to go for the gold medal, you should not be just intellectually strong, but you also have to be emotionally strong to both aspect, the facts, how you come up with your facts, and also how you come up with your presentation, for example. Not just that. So because having said that, not just about the economics, but the investment part, I also encourage the student to read about those papers from the Nobel Prize laureates. Right? So read the papers, read about game theory, read about reverse game theory, read about this contract theory, for example, the nudge theory, for example, right? The Richard Taylor nudge, the nudge, all these things. And also in the presentation skill, in the class, the preparation class, I also teach the students the Minto principle, for example. How do you structure your thought, right? The concept of MISI, right? For example, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. A concept, right? So when you want to present something, you have to think about a pyramid, right? When you come up with a presentation, it's usually from the ground, and then you summarize it to the top. But when you present, it's the other way around, from the top to the bottom, right? So you present what is important first, and then you elaborate, for example. So these are some of the additional value that you get from going through this process. It doesn't just teach you about the economic stuff, investment stuff, but it's also something that teaches about how to write clearly, how to present clearly, and so on. So I think that's the whole aspect that if you want to prep for this, get ready with all these things. So read all these kind of books, challenge yourself, and if you have difficulty to understand a certain area, like for example, if you hardly understand what does it means by game theory, for example, don't just read the book. You go to YouTube and you just Google game theory for 101 of game theory, for example. And you know why? Why? Because again, I go back to the learning style of the students, because some students are very good in just learning. Some students requires the actual implementation, the kinesthetic approach. Some students are visual. Some students are auditory, right? So when we train them, is that I always try to see that which method is the best for each student. That's some students is that they need to listen to you. Some student is that they need to actually have feel. That's why I say that I share the screen of how do you do trading, right? What does it mean by risk? For example, you say that then I show, okay, you look at this chart. So this is the price currently. You can go short or you can go long. So assuming that, okay, then I'll ask the students like, okay, you tell me under this situation, you're going to go short or go long. So, okay, 2 students say go short, 2 students say go long. This is the best situation. Let's see who's going to make profit, who's going to lose. Now, after 2 minutes, we look at the chart. Okay, the price drop. The one that short, you earn 200 ringgit. And the one that actually go long, you lose 200 ringgit. So guys, if you want to go do a real trade, you got to be careful. You have the upside of 200 ringgit in 2 minutes. And you also possible to actually have a loss of 200 ringgit in a couple of minutes. Right? This is going to happen to you, and this is going to happen to you and you. So these are some of the different learning styles. Right? But in terms of the coverage of the topic, those are the areas that I think should be covered.
I think that's a very good advice for prospective students out there. And I think that even if they don't use it in the economics Olympiad, like all those behavioral economics theory and presentational skills, they can definitely apply it in real life. So I think it's a win-win preparation. When they participate in this economics Olympiad. Okay, so thank you, Hamidi. Do you have anything else that you want to share about the Malaysian Economics Olympiad or the Kijang Economics Competition or the International Economics Olympiad?
I think just keep up to date with the from the website of Arden Education, because more often than not, I also receive some emails that asking about like for example is that can I participate in the next Olympiad, which is scheduled in sometime in few months time in China. Then I said that that selection period has ended, right? So we are not preparing for the second stage. The first stage has passed, right? So the thing is that if you want to participate, you can, but next year. But the risk is that for some of the students, there's a eligibility criteria, right? The age requirement, and also whether you will be in the university next year. If you are enrolled in the university, there's certain conditions. So just keep updated with the announcement made on the website.
And Hamidi, when will be the usual starting season for the selection?
Okay, so basically let me just now usually sometimes in February and March, we are looking for the myao, which is the second stage. You should actually try to starting from October for next year, right? Maybe September, October for the year. So if you participate in this year's Kijang competition, that you will be, if you are selected, be selected for next year.
All right. So any prospective students out there, if you want to join the next year's International Olympiad, then you probably should start studying now and join the first round selection in October. Okay.
Yeah, around that.
And
yes.
Yeah. So if you guys want to receive like news about Olympiad registration or Olympiad news or training materials, you can go to our website amiso.my. And you can subscribe to our newsletter, so we will notify you guys when Ardent Education has opened their registration or we have any other news or training materials from our alumni. Okay, so thank you, Hamidi. Anything else you want to share about the Economics Olympiad?
No, I think pretty much that's about it. Like, yeah. Thank you for this session. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it's our pleasure to invite you. You have a lot of interesting things to share, and I think a lot of students has been inspired to join the Economics Olympiad. I know that you are a very busy person, and I personally am very respect that you put so much time into training all these new students, like Malaysian young, like what you said, 17, 18 years old. When you're already a working professional adult, you're training all these students to become like aspiring economists or mathematicians in economics. And yeah, I think you all have our respects here and your devotion into the Olympiads. Yeah, we truly honor you for all that. So thank you, Hamidi, for your time. And yeah, thank you, and hope to see you when the next Olympiad begins. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Right.